Y'all ready for this boogie down Bronx shit?
Yeah. Let's do this.
Let's go. Cause I don't give a fuck about your faults and mishappenings. I'm from the Bronx, New York. Shit happens like asthmatics who dream of lungs so classic they never forget to pronounce our names with our accents. My chest, a language erratic. So many years coughing, got a coffin full of static. Lower it into the Bronx and say amen for those who lost access. All this poison in the air, more people died here than the Titanic. And you always asking why this rap shit sounded so dramatic. We were the first failed economy this side of the Atlantic. Taught the whole world how to loop themselves properly. Now you're screaming you're welcome cause you owning all the property. Between my right canine and a never-ending modesty. Just because every few decades you acknowledge me? Nah. I'm a Cedric Ave prodigy, Bronx bred alchemy. Bomba and hip-hop can't pull one genre out of me. I'm honestly so tired of your money-making policies. We got advertising, abuelas screaming from the balconies. We got a fan base. Ain't you heard the last colonies? This shit spreads like bochinche from the cross Bronx to the west coast. Got the viejos saying, nene, ¿qué es esto, huh? ¿Qué dijiste el mister? No tiene hip-hop en la isla, pero tiene revolución en la grita. But all y'all want to hear is hip-hop is lit, like my borough wasn't the first lighter. The Bronx been burning and you're all prone to Alzheimer's. Took a goddamn Netflix show to prove my borough hasn't had writers. Since every single thing around us is on fire. Since Robert Moses came to burn us down to a pyre of rubble and ash, and here comes a gentrifier. But ain't no one ever come to our age, you all liars. Since day one I heard spread love, it's the Brooklyn way. But my borough seen nothing from a Brooklyn day or a Compton play to the spread of LA. And what you gotta say, you paid homage to your viejos like yesterday? But don't forgot where your damn granddaddy stayed? I heard Edita Bendiciones grew up in Ponce. Moved in with a dream, 2 kids and a baby. On the block wins dominoes like all day. But his kids, they connect the sounds to Atae, Huracán, Yokahu, Africa, y Ashe. Such writing and rhyming, screaming yo tengo hambre. Y no me importa su barrio o su boca, escúchame yo como rappers en todo los idiomas, but I don't rap in Spanish. I just rap savage. From the days of the black space to Zulu Nation status. My borough gave them everything and still don't have advantages. And still struggle for passages. And still kill ourselves just to find out where the balance is. And that's when my father yells that he ain't never come back. And he ain't never come back. But I will be back. Say I will be back. Say I will be back. Woo!
My mother raised me fearless. She taught me how to peel plátano without trembling, how to let the blade do its job without shaking. When American Kiss twisted my name soft and the broken sound, she made sure I knew how to correct it. Danyeli, the real way, the Spanish way, the Dominican way. When Spanish-speaking teachers drowned me in their spit, my mother scolded me from across the room. And that's how I learned how to swim. She raised a swimmer and a sprinter, told me to never stay in places not meant for me, told me to never linger in dark rooms where men holding machetes under their palms. My mother spoke to me about fucking, about protection. At only age 9, she knew that to survive in our block, she had to punch the wise right into me, had to make a young woman out of a child, had to make a cub into a panther way before the boys could. But often I was stubborn. I had too much of her in my hip, too much of her in my lips. I had to learn my lesson. When I laid in the concrete, crying after a boy who did not treasure me, I had to learn my lesson when I couldn't come home and face her. I had to learn my lesson when I realized that she was right. You see, I'm 23 now, and I'm realizing my mother's herbs, medicinas caseras, that's some limón con Vivaporú, can cure way more than a cold. That some ginger y fideo soup can cure more than my throat. I'm 23 and I'm realizing that aunque me cueste, my mother is sometimes, usually, and always fucking right. But don't tell her I said that. Because my mother is a strong woman. And she does not soften up to love letters or flowers, and there's too much anger and too much pride for me to tell her all the things that I wish that I could. But you see, if my mother understood this language that breaks her every day, this is what I would say. Mami, I know I'm a malcriada. And my temper is 3 hurricanes in one, and the boy chachus are always bad. And I know that I barely see you because I work so much, and I'm out in the streets teaching people know your rights, but you're at home rezando that I come home at night. And I know you begged me not to shot a cop or open my big ass mouth, but who else would do this for you, ma? You came here when I was 7, brought me here a year later, worked 3 jobs and paid for college, and they stabbed you in the back, called me a dreamer, and gave me DACA, and then asked you to pack your bags. So mommy, I'm not ready. Put down the damn backpack and the passport and the boarding pass. As long as I can talk and move and breathe, I will riot and I will fight, and I won't let them touch you, mommy. Not now, not ever, and not tonight. You see, you let this country break your back and gave your life to raise me right. We can't, and we must not give up now. Thank you.
Today I woke up to news that Junot Diaz assaulted women writers. A man assaults women. This isn't shocking, but it still moves me. I have been defensive. Not to protect him. I think he should be held accountable for his actions. I've been defensive about what he represents. Because I know what will be said about Black Latinos. I know what will be said about Dominicans. This will be another story about why Dominicans are so fucked up. Every week there is a story. Dominicans are anti-Black, somehow more so than the rest of the globe. Dominicans are misogynistic. Dominicans are homophobic. There is no safe Dominican haven for a faggot like this. And it's not that I don't want to talk about how Dominican culture breeds the kind of spaces that creates men like Junot Diaz. It is just hard to be part of a culture with so much trauma. I had spent so much time being ashamed of being Dominican, then years later learning my history to be proud of who we are. But sometimes it all just feels like getting used to overcoming trauma. My father leaves me and my mother. He takes everything. Years later, I forgive him. My grandfather's father kills himself, makes an alcoholic of his son, but 60 years later, my aunt, an immigrant Dominican woman who is about to get her master's degree, first in our family, she writes a master's thesis about alcoholism. She tries to unearth the Fuku. She writes his psyche into present. And maybe there isn't such a thing as forgiving someone who takes their own life, but she forgives him for everything that came after. In 2017, a young woman is murdered on the island by her wealthy boyfriend and his family. The country is an earthquake. The country sings Emily. The country demands justice for unnamed dead girls everywhere, but it does not forgive him. Some distant time ago, the color of this skin was raped into existence. The lust of some Spaniard bubbling in the corner of the mouth. I do not know how to forgive this skin. What do I do about this culture? All this history, all this trauma. Every time I try to grow a flower from this bruise, it bleeds out. I feel the earth move from under me every time this culture gives me another thing to be ashamed about. Sometimes there is no flower to grow from the soil from which we sprung. So how do I be? With violent ancestors and violent fathers and no literary heroes to claim now. Or maybe this isn't about culture. Maybe the common thread here is just men being men, disappointing us. Men taking and taking and taking, then leaving. What do we do about Junot Diaz now?
Self-portrait as a lost Latino history. I leave my home and call it an exodus. Historically, I have always been in a state of migration, constant, to allow my feet enough time to negotiate my existence with the earth. I think if I plant myself in enough cities, I cannot be washed out of them all. I think if I drown enough tongues in my Spanish, this country will call me back home. To die before this has been granted would be to succumb to a history of dying nameless. Like Juan Seguin, once Prof. Tejano, who after fighting alongside fresh-faced Anglos and leading them to victory in what is now known as the Alamo, was then chased out of Mexico, now America, and died a stranger to his own land, died unsung and forgotten. And I cannot be a mirror to that kind of unknoble fate, to be told I do not belong where I have been firmly planted. I want to have endless roots, gripping the earth, something to trace a lineage with. I want to be able to swallow enough water to soak you up or wash you out before your English thinks itself brave enough to whitewash me out of every history textbook, Rebecca. The fact that I know my own name is its own revolution. But it is not enough. Say Juan Seguin, 1836, hero of the Alamo. Say Octaviano Lara Solo, 1928, the first Latino elected to the U.S. Senate. Say Insing Manuel Gonzalez, 1941, pilot and one of the first American casualties at the attack on Pearl Harbor. Say 500,000 Latinos fighting in World War I, and then coming back home to a country with no Mexican signs hanging in front of their restaurant doors. Say us fighting anyway. Say us thriving anyway. Say we have always been here. Say we have always been here. Writing ourselves back into the narrative, giving our children a history they will not have to rip themselves open to find, showing them we have always been here, screaming we have always been here, screaming we have always been here, we have always been here, we have always been here.